Hello, everybody. Oh my. Well, I'll tell you what. Tonight, I'm going to talk about a couple of things, but one of the things I want to talk about is Thursday. I'm not going to do an update on Wednesday or Friday. It's Thanksgiving, and I think that we want to be with our families. I also realize that anything I say right now, someone can come back with a snotty remark. So bear with me. I realize that. All right. But to the best of our abilities, we'll move forward. And so I just want to touch on a couple of things that are happening in the world. And then I want to talk about Thursday. Because Thursday is my favorite holiday. And we'll talk. Anyway, in case you didn't hear, the State Board of Canvassers voted today 3-1 with an abstention to certify the election. That means that they're saying all the numbers are close to being correct, and now an audit can take place. Now, I will say this to start. It does seem curious to me, and laws have been there for a while, and we got to change it. And the problem that I found, like 1945, our emergency management laws, we had a 76 and a 45. Well, nobody even thought about it. Why? Because we never had a massive emergency like a pandemic, and we didn't know that it could be abused, right? So now we had to fight through that. And so looking at the far range here, this year has been on every angle a learning curve, and how we need to adjust our laws and our procedures. For example, it seems odd to me that you certify votes to say they're all legal, then the Secretary of State audits to make sure that everything is all right. That seems bass-ackwards to me. You would think that the very last thing you do is say, okay, it's all good, after a Secretary of State has not certified, but audited and checked. And I know each county does it. Point being is our election policy and our election laws need some revamping. And I do believe training is a massive part of that for our poll workers and all of that. So I know that there's a lot of people upset with the Board of Canvassers today. And I'm not saying I'm jumping up and down either. But this weekend, it's funny, I got a message from somebody who said that I am basically a terrible person because I am not, doing something that I legally can't do. Then I got another thing telling me that I'm a terrible person because I'm trying to steal the election from Joe Biden. And it's like, which is it? How can I be? Point is, everybody is upset. And I will tell this for the Biden supporters out there. This is an important thing for you to understand, whether you agree with it or not. I think it's whenever you're in a discussion, you kind of got to understand where the other side's coming from. Well, here's the problem. If you're a Biden supporter, I'm just laying it out there to you. You're going to probably say, oh, you're crazy, Jack. For 4 years, there has been an unrelenting attack on Mr. Trump. The Russian collusion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he has had to fight. And that it has just bred contempt and suspicion. And I don't blame people, because I do believe that there has been almost a palace coup underway. It hadn't worked. Now, where we're at with this, it's up to the candidate to prove that there's been fraud. And so far, Mr. Trump and his attorneys have claimed, but they've not been able to prove. And that is part of the problem that we face here. So we must move forward. I don't like all of it. Like I say, our laws seem to be backwards, but we've got to figure that out, and we'll move forward. So the election, I can't fix it here tonight. I can't fix it just as Jack from the 101st. But I will work with my colleagues in the legislature, and we'll move forward. Again, as a legislator, there's only so much we can do. We're not in the enforcement. We're not the governor. We're not the Secretary of State, and we're not the Attorney General. The people of Michigan voted in 3 people in those roles a couple of years ago. Not particularly my favorites, and I'll just leave it at that. COVID. I was going back and forth with some people yesterday, and one of the things I said was, this has gotten to the point where you come forward and say COVID is terrible and you have 10 facts. COVID response, let me be a little more specific. I think we'll all agree COVID's terrible. COVID response, you've got 10 reasons why it's bad, and the other side's got 10 reasons why it isn't. So I'm trying to just be commonsensical. And right now, just this, not what's been and not what's gonna be, right now, we have a situation where our hospitals, because they are still doing elective procedures, they are busy. The biggest problem we face right now is that our medical staffs are taxed. They are out on sick leave. They are quarantining. Whatever the case may be, our nurses primarily are in jeopardy. So you're going to have to decide for yourself how you move forward for this holiday. But and I'm talking from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Here's the thing I would say. Think of it this way. If someone you love had to go to the hospital and needed to be in there for 4 or 5 days, you want, I'm guessing, nurses that are energized and ready to go. And so we need to do everything we can to limit the number of people that go in those hospitals so that those who do have energized nurses. Let's talk Thanksgiving. This is a rough year. When I was on the radio, on the morning show before Thanksgiving, a lot of years I read Abe Lincoln's proclamation for Thanksgiving. And go Google it. It's a pretty good one. But Thanksgiving is my favorite time of year, my favorite holiday, because it's very simple. It doesn't take a whole lot. Yeah, your turkey and all that, but you don't need that for Thanksgiving. What you need is a quiet moment to give thanks to God for all that we have. And, people are losing their jobs, Jack. The businesses are closed. It's terrible. How can you give thanks? Because I read a quote from, it was in an article by a guy by the name of Paul Batra. Never heard of him. He's an author. But he had a great quote. He was talking about his giving thanks in the midst of all this crapola. And I've said this from the beginning. I think back to my parents. My parents were born in 1915, about 3 years before the Spanish flu hit. So they were just little ones when it hit. But I'm sure their parents were very worried about them because that was killing people left and right. They grew up and were teenagers during the Depression. And I remember my mother telling me how she was always afraid that they were going to run out of coal and freeze to death in the winter. They made it through a depression. They went into a world war. My dad fought in the Pacific. Mom was back here, and they were rationing and doing all of that. Then you move forward to some prosperity, but then they had the Cold War, the nukes, and Kennedy getting shot, and then the civil unrest. My point is, we always think that we have the worst because we're selfish beings. So I'll get back to this quote in just a second. So that's why I say when we look at Thanksgiving, and we can look at this year, 2020, and say it has been a biatch of a year. And you wouldn't be wrong. But that doesn't mean we can't give thanks for the things that we do have. So here's this Mr. Batra's quote. Might we struggle to give thanks when times are tough? Might we struggle to give thanks when times are tough because we hold too tightly to the things that were gifts in the first place? God has bestowed many great things on us, and everybody's different. I used to say, even if you were sitting there and all you had was your dog, your dog loves you. Be thankful for that. We can find something. So I pray that this Thanksgiving, we can put it all aside, all the hate, all the venom, all the anger. And for one day, at least, if you take two, that's good. For just this day, to be thankful to our benevolent Father above for all the good that is in this world. So I am going to spend this Thanksgiving with my family. We have a few little traditions, and we're going to try and the turkey is always, carving it is always an interesting affair. But anyway, so I know this has been a crappy year, but Americans have been through a lot of crap before. So just remember that quote. Might we struggle to give thanks when times are tough because we hold too tightly to things that were gifts in the first place? Folks, I'm not going to be here Wednesday, not going to be here Friday. I'll be back next Monday. Till then, I wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Please take time to think about those things. Put it all aside. All right? With that, I leave you, and I will keep you in my prayers as we move forward. We'll get through this. We always will. Take care. Or I should say we always do. Thanks.